The Integrated Child Development Services (ICDS) scheme was launched in 1975 in pursuance of the National Policy for Children. ICDS over the last 3 decades has expanded significantly to become the world's largest community-based outreach program for women and children. With a vision to bring about outcomes as envisioned in the Millennium Development Goals, the National Population Policy, the National Health Policy and Vision 2020 India, the Reproductive Child Health RCH project emerged as a big program.
నేను చిన్నగా ఉన్నప్పుడు అంగన్వాడీ సెంటర్స్ లేవు సార్ మా ఊర్లో. మా ఫ్యామిలీ కూడా మా అమ్మకి మొత్తం 9 మందిని పుట్టామంట. అందులో అంగన్వాడీ సెంటర్స్ లేవు, అప్పుడు హెల్ప్ లైన్స్ అది లేవు కాబట్టి అందరూ చనిపోగా నేను మా సిస్టర్ ఇద్దరమే బతికినాము. ఈ అంగన్వాడీ లేని లోటు ఇప్పుడు మనకు ప్రత్యేకంగా కనబడుతుంది సార్. ఎందుకంటే అప్పుడు అంగన్వాడీస్ లేవు, మనకు ఏమి లేవు కాబట్టి వాళ్ళకి ఏమి ఇంజెక్షన్స్ కానీ ఎలా ఫుడ్ అన్నీ తెలియలేదు కాబట్టి వాళ్ళు పిల్లలు చనిపోవడానికి ఛాయిస్ ఉన్నాయి. ఇప్పుడు నేను చిన్నగా ఉన్నప్పటి నుంచి కూడా అంగన్వాడీ లేవు సార్. ప్రస్తుతానికి ఇప్పుడు అంగన్వాడీస్ వచ్చినాయి కాబట్టి అన్ని రకాల కూడా ఈ ఊరికి కానీ ప్రతి గ్రామానికి కానీ ప్రతి మహిళలకు కానీ అన్నిటికీ చాలా హెల్ప్గా ఉంది సార్ అంగన్వాడీస్.
Recognizing the importance of health in the process of economic and social development and improving quality of the life of citizens, the Government of India launched the National Rural Health Mission for providing comprehensive primary health care services, especially to the poor and the vulnerable sections of the society. The programs of the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and the ICDS have between them the largest outreach public health services in the country. The ICDS program has reached a stage where it has become essential to harmonize its expansion and its content enrichment in order to accelerate the achievement of its core objectives. Universalization of ICDS has thrown its set of challenges to the achievement of goals.
Coming to the role of care in the facilitating this process, it has mainly been to introduce the element of standardization into already known good practices. So ICDS and NRHM have been implementing the nutrition and health days. The home contacts were already part of ICDS. Supportive supervision and sector meetings were already in implementation, but as mentioned, they were all in varied forms. But introducing the technicality of standardizing these good practices is one of the roles that CARE has played, that has helped in an easy scale up of their practice.
The USAID supported Integrated Nutrition and Health Project recognized that the fastest way to get effective interventions to scale in a potentially sustainable manner was to engage with the existing systems.
Now, having helped with the standardization, another important role that CARE played was to train the state level, the district level and the divisional level ICDS and health family level functionaries, as well as facilitate the monthly incremental learning support sessions. This was mainly to demonstrate to government how on-the-job corrections can be made in ICDS on such a large scale. I think that demonstration was an important role that CARE has played.
INHP was built upon a 3-decade-long relationship between CARE India and the ICDS program and was designed to address child health and nutrition at a scale with the stated impact objectives of helping reduce malnutrition and mortality in children.
And in the last 10 years of implementation, we have tried out and tried out and demonstrated many positive practices for reduction of malnutrition and IMR. Earlier it was, the intensity and quality was varied from place to place across 8 districts also.
The project chose to promote a set of technical interventions in antenatal and newborn care, nutrition and immunization which were known from global evidence to be effective. These interventions were already integral to the ICDS and RCH programs.
For example, if there was a nutrition health day, which is not new. We have implemented this nutrition health day in the primary program area, but there were slight variations in how it was being conducted in various districts. So what we felt, there was a need to have a uniform understanding on part of the counterparts to how nutrition health day, or in a similar way the Anganwadi worker home contacts or the sector meeting and the supervisors field visits and the commodity technical assistance is being done.
The organization structure of INHP was designed to provide opportunities for engaging these national programs at sub-district, district, state and national levels.
It was so systematically done that we have identified different steps in the taking the activity, the good practice, and identifying the different activities, sub-activities in the practice, and identifying the key people responsible for completing that activity, identifying the indicators for ensuring that the activity is completed or not, and different timelines, and then also the supervisors, those who are responsible for ensuring this activity completed there. Standard protocols really help the functionaries to have a common understanding of things. So the standardization process has really helped all the functionaries to have a common understanding on all the good practices, on different activities in each good practice, and people who are responsible for implementing these good practices at different levels.
ఈ కార్యక్రమాలు అనేక సంవత్సరాలుగా జరుగుతున్నప్పటికీ కొన్ని అంశాల్లో ఫోకస్డ్గా చేస్తే తప్ప ఫలితాలు తొందరగా సాధించలేమనే విషయాన్ని గుర్తించి ముఖ్యంగా ఒక 5 బెస్ట్ ప్రాక్టీసెస్ని ఐడెంటిఫై చేయడం జరిగింది. ఇందులో 2 ప్రాక్టీసెస్ సూపర్వైజర్ చేయవలసినవి, అంటే ఆచరించాల్సినవి ఉన్నాయి. 2 అంగన్వాడీ వర్కర్ చేయవలసింది, 1 CDPO పరిధిలో చేసుకోవాల్సింది. ఒక బెస్ట్ ప్రాక్టీసెస్ మనం మొత్తం 5 ఐడెంటిఫై చేశాము.
Beginning with a set of best practices from the early days of INHP, the project used a demonstration and replication approach. This involved local partnerships with NGOs for demonstrating the implementation of the best practices, which were taken up by ICDS and RCH program functionaries for a similar implementation in the rest of the project area.
The government's ownership of the process comes or has come mainly because the process of standardized replication contributes directly to the ICDS goals, increasing the coverage for the ICDS and RCH services, reaching the unreached areas, which we were able to do through some of the good practices, the achieving consistency of implementation of these processes across. So the standardization process has actually contributed to achieving consistency across the areas, and I think that is something that the government definitely believes will add value and take their goals further.
In Andhra Pradesh, the best practices were demonstrated in 10% of the Anganwadi centers in 8 districts through the NGO partnerships, and later scaled up to the rest of the 90% of these 8 districts through ICDS and RCH functionaries. The 8 districts, Srikakulam, Vijayanagaram, Visakhapatnam, Khammam, Warangal, Karimnagar, Medak and Nizamabad. These 8 districts covered 25,107 Anganwadis across 125 ICDS projects.
ఈ 5 బెస్ట్ ప్రాక్టీసెస్ కూడా ఇంప్లిమెంట్ చేయాలనంటే దీనికి సంబంధించి మరి మొదటగా మనం డిస్ట్రిక్ట్ లెవెల్లో డిస్ట్రిక్ట్ రిసోర్స్ గ్రూప్స్ని ఐడెంటిఫై చేయడం జరిగింది. వారందరికి కూడా ట్రైనింగ్ ఇవ్వడం జరిగింది. ఈ డిస్ట్రిక్ట్ రిసోర్స్ గ్రూప్స్ని మాత్రమే కాకుండా దీంట్లో ప్రధానంగా ఏంటనంటే హెల్త్ ఫంక్షనరీస్ని కూడా ఇన్వాల్వ్ చేసి సమాన స్థాయిలో గ్రూపులను ఏర్పాటు చేసి ట్రైనింగ్స్ ఇవ్వటం మూలంగా మంచి కోఆర్డినేషను మనం తీసుకురాగలిగాము. ఈ కార్యక్రమం ద్వారా.
In a district like Nalgonda, the discussions with the government counterparts and initial meetings helped them to replicate the process very smoothly and systematically, and as a result of it, most of the behavioral practices were changed at a community level. The levels of acceptance between a government functionaries and the community level were also increased. As a result of it, most of the indicators at a community level were improved.
At the same time, there was a growing recognition of the potential of good practices of INHP in strengthening ICDS and RCH programs.
Yeah, one of the other reasons for government's increasing ownership of the standardized replication has also been due to the potential for functional convergence between ICDS and health family welfare. In fact, this has also been one of the results that we have seen as part of this process, which is how at every level from Anganwadi center to the highest level at the district and the state, we have seen at every level functional linkages and functional convergence being forged between ICDS and health family welfare. We have seen this happening through the incremental learning support that was happening every month, which has not only helped in problem solving, removing the barriers to rolling out the protocols, but it has also helped them to expand this convergence to their other areas. This has been a valuable contribution and result that the government has seen and is very keen to carry forward beyond CARE's efforts.
A series of consultations between USAID, CARE and the Ministry of Women and Child Development spanning over a period of 2 years resulted in a consensus on extending the proven good practices of INHP beyond care-assisted ICDS areas. In January 2007, 2 formal structures were set up to facilitate the process of replication. A national advisory panel chaired by the Joint Secretary of the Government of India, Ministry of Women and Child Development, with members from the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, senior representatives from the Women Development and Child Welfare and Health and Family Welfare, USAID and CARE. Subsequently, the State Working Group for Andhra Pradesh was chaired by the Principal Secretary, Women Development and Child Welfare, and Commissioner, Health Family Welfare, senior officers from both departments, state advisors to the Supreme Court on the right to food, and Care India representative from Andhra Pradesh. Replication was to be a dynamic learning process with shifting mindsets of functionaries across levels, not a mere reproducing of practices or approaches mechanically. It was to be a process that builds capacities, adds insights about the rationale of taking actions, and the content had to be contextualized, yet must have a built-in scope of flexibility. It was to be led by mentors and leaders within ICDS and RCH who have the ability to energize the system and act as the torch bearers. The processes chosen for replication were not an adjunct to the existing program. They become integral to the program, evolving to meet program needs and goals. The ultimate goal was to enable ICDS and RCH to accomplish the goal of reducing child malnutrition and infant mortality. Thus, the design of the replication of good practices to reach over 50,000 Anganwadis across 260 ICDS projects in 15 districts needed to be unique and such that it could be led by the mentors within ICDS and RCH within a shorter period of time and without the intensive catalytic support of INHP.
Mainly what the purpose of starting the standard replication was to see a change in the way ICDS thinks and acts on reducing child malnutrition, and that is exactly what we have also found after the implementation. The impact particularly that I would be worth mentioning is that is an important shift that has been made in a very important national flagship program.
Standardization is a tool and a systemic process of reviewing existing practices, identifying the proven good practices, analyzing gaps and aspects that impede the quality and efficiency, mapping these processes and establishing linkages and determinants, defining processes, controls, responsibilities and authorities, monitoring controls, and finally defining key service delivery characteristics and performance indicators. The journey of standardization is one of consultation with the implementers and involves important activities like constitution of a team, orientation of the team to the process of standardization, verify the documented process by the functionaries, modify the documented processes, train select staff among functionaries for piloting the process, pilot monitoring and corrections, internal audit leading to the consistency and improvements in operations.
Across the state, the standardization protocols has been followed for the effective Nutrition and Health Day as well as the home context and other 3 best practices.
INHP facilitated the development of 5 standardized protocols, one for each good practice, which document the stepwise process, describes the relevant tools, checklists and job aids, articulates responsibilities, time period for the activities, indicators for monitoring, and established the controls for each process.
Functionaries at the top level also understood the importance of this process for 2 reasons. One is that, right from top to bottom level, there is a common understanding. The second important reason is, implementation, it is very clear there, no ambiguity there.
Once the standardization was completed and protocols were developed, a clear approach for the replication was finalized.
So one of the important milestone in the process of replication is the standardization.
From March onwards, we are collected the data from the 23 districts. Now we are recruiting around 27 data collectors. Every month they collected NHD and home contacts and sector strengthening meetings. They collect and enter the data at their end and send to me, and we are consolidated here and we do analysis, and that analysis we share with major stakeholders, Commission of Family Welfare and Principal Secretary of Women and Child Development and Director.
Before we go to the scale there, we would like to have this very systematic and clear to all the functionaries whoever is implementing this good practices there. So in that process, so we have standardized all the good practices, all the 5 good practices, and piloted all these standardized protocols in 2 different districts to identify how these standard protocols are working or not. We have modified those standard protocols, and then we had a consultation meeting with the government functionaries, thoroughly looked into the standard protocols, and then finally finalized these standard protocols.
The district resource group comprised of people from health department, some NGOs wherever possible, and ICDS counterparts representing all the ICDS projects in the district. So something like about 35 odd people or 40 odd people in each district as a district resource group, and these group was trained. A TOT was conducted for them on the 5 good practices, and these people in turn conducted trainings for the remaining supervisors of the all the ICDS projects. After the trainings were conducted, all the supervisors gave trainings, conducted trainings jointly for Anganwadi workers and ANMs together, and After that, the implementation of the 5 good practices started.
ఈ ట్రైనింగ్లు అయిన తర్వాత మళ్ళీ మనం వీటిని స్ట్రెంథన్ చేయడానికి కంటిన్యూగా ఈ కార్యక్రమం జరగటం కోసం దీని మీద ఏ ఫోకస్ అయితే వచ్చిందో అది కంటిన్యూ అవటం కోసం మనం ఇంక్రిమెంటల్ లెర్నింగ్స్ అని కూడా టేకప్ చేయటం జరిగింది. ఇది గత 6 నెలలుగా హెల్త్ అండ్ ఐసిడిఎస్ డిపార్ట్మెంట్స్ రెండూ కూడా క్రమం తప్పకుండా జిల్లా స్థాయిలో ఈ మీటింగ్స్ కండక్ట్ చేయటం మూలంగా ఒక మంచి కోఆర్డినేషన్ వచ్చి ఐఎంఆర్ ఏమిటి, ఎంఎంఆర్ ఏమిటి, ఇమ్యునైజేషన్ ఎవరు తీసుకోలేదు, ఈ హెల్త్ అండ్ న్యూట్రిషన్ ఎడ్యుకేషన్ క్లాసెస్ ఏ విధంగా జరుగుతున్నాయి, ఏఎన్ఎం పాత్ర ఏమిటి, మెడికల్ ఆఫీసర్ పాత్ర ఏమిటి, సిడిపిఓ పాత్ర ఏమిటి, ఎలాగ ముందుగా యాక్షన్ ప్లాన్ తయారు చేసుకోవాలనే విషయంలో చాలా చక్కటి అవగాహన ప్రాజెక్ట్ స్థాయిలో రావటం జరిగింది. అదేవిధంగా సూపర్వైజర్స్కి కూడా ఒక మంచి అవగాహన వచ్చి మంచి కోఆర్డినేషన్తో 2 డిపార్ట్మెంట్లు కలిపి కార్యక్రమాలు ముందుకు తీసుకెళ్ళటం జరుగుతూ ఉంది.
Every month, under the incremental learning support, we have designed a content to the ICDS and NRHM. Through the DRG, this content has been discussed during the DRG. That content again, the DRG members will carry forward to the BRG, Block Resource Group team members, where the block supervisors, CDPO, medical officers and everyone will be discussing, and the same content is carried forward at the sector level during the sector meetings.
We can see that the convergence has been furthered because there was also a sharing of costs for replication between the 2 departments, which we have not seen earlier instances.
Standardization is an approach that helps articulate and implement a process in a common manner with the predictability of the results guaranteed. These good practices are fixed nutrition and health days, prioritized home contacts, supportive supervision, structured sector meeting, food commodity supply chain management.